kind of get to shadow along with the call today. I'm
Yeah,
ho-
I just wanted to say thank you so much for letting me shadow. I'm new to our family wizard, but I worked as a family law paralegal in Northern California for a few years. So I got the opportunity to use it firsthand. And yeah, I'm just excited to learn. And thank you also, Giuseppe, for letting me shadow. I really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for being here. I've been at French Lick a bunch of times this summer, so I feel like maybe I've seen some of you at maybe Solo and Small Firm or maybe at iClef Masters Series. But if it's all new folks, I'm happy to get to see you all here. Oh, I see Amy. I see you on there. How's your computer?
It's still updating. It's at 23% now of the
I'm
third
so
update.
sorry.
So,
I was so optimistic
I
for
was
you.
checking too. I don't see George Catanzarite here, who is our family law committee chairperson. So I would imagine he's coming
I think I
in. I
see. I
don't
think I
know.
Oh,
see
I'm
Oh,
here.
George.
I see. There he is. Okay. George, did you have any announcements you needed to make?
No, no announcement. I figured we would kind of hop right in, and I'm guessing that there might be a fair amount of question and answer thereafter. So I'm not going to bog everybody down with my drivel.
Okay. The only other thing I would say, I know we talked about doing a session in October with Judge Plando, and I just want to encourage everybody. We're going to have Judge Plando present at the local practice seminar and kind of do a family law update at that. So please, if you haven't already, look at the outline for what we're offering in November at the local practice, and Judge Plando will present there. And I think Giuseppe, I think you're going to join us there as well.
I would love to. Yeah, yeah. I
So,
think we got to talk through the details, but I have it on my calendar and I'm planning to be
yeah.
there.
So that might be another opportunity if people have questions, if between now and
Mhm.
then you have a chance to look at this app, he will be able to give you some more detail then. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. I'll continue to check you all in. And if anybody has any questions, either put them in the chat, or if Giuseppe's open to people, bringing up questions, I'll try to monitor the chat and just let you know if there's a question in there.
Great. Thanks, Amy. Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, I'll go ahead. I love a conversational element. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to speak up. Go ahead and raise your hand in the Zoom function, whatever works best for you. But I've got no ego about it. I'm very happy to stop and answer questions along the way. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm super excited to be here with you all, and even more excited to hopefully get to meet some of y'all in person at the local practice seminar in a couple months. So I'm Giuseppe Fricano with Our Family Wizard. Basically, I'm going to give everyone kind of an overview of our program. I don't know how well I can see hands, but can show of hands if anyone wants to speak up. Who here already has a professional account, uses Our Family Wizard with any clients? Any hands? Okay, great. Got like a little bit. So let me start here. So, this may not be rocket science or brand new to you all, but, based on some market research, we know that co-parenting is, about as stressful now as kind of it's ever been. About 40% of parents say that most days they're so stressed they can't function, over twice the rate of other adults. And about 35% of co-parents say that unclear responsibilities and a lack of accountability are their top pain points. Spoiler alert, these are some of the things we're wanting to address with the use of our program. And then about 50% of parents say that poor communication and coordination are their top pain points as well. So to give you a little bit more history about our program, we started way back in 2001 at ourfamilywizard.com, which is before Google Calendar, before the first iPhone. And this all kind of started because we had basically a father who was really struggling with this, with co-parenting, not because they had conflict, but because they're passing a journal back and forth for their calendar, and it was just not working. And he was talking to his attorney about really wanting a better way, and his attorney's son was a software developer, and that's kind of where the first idea for the first iteration of ourfamilywizard.com came from. The website in 2001, and kind of, there's like definitely less polished internet days. And it was really primarily a scheduling tool, which is, I think, one of the reasons that our, calendar is kind of one of our flagship features. So Judge Swenson in Hennepin County, where we're headquartered in Minneapolis, was an early adopter and kind of like helped with this pilot where they had 40 to 50 families kind of going through the court system, and basically got them all onboarded with OFW. And the huge takeaway from this, a pilot project, was that it drastically reduced the need for families to come back to court. Huge takeaway. And at this time, we were not as robust as we are now. It was really a calendar feature, and using it really helped people just need to not come back to court as much. So it really brought down the level of animosity, helped keep kids safer. And these are really philosophical and value components that we still hold really closely as an organization today. Obviously, we are a little more developed now, right? So kind of this is an example of our mobile app looks like, and here's just a list of all the features. So I'm going to spend more time going into each of these and kind of the use cases and kind of how they work for you all as professionals. But just to give you a look at all of them ahead of time, really want you to think about kind of like an ecosystem of tools where we really want each tool to serve a specific purpose. We don't even want parents to have to message that much, because it's often when they're talking to one another that things can start to get frustrating and the conflict starts to bubble up. So we have tools that are meant to serve specific purposes so we can keep, interactions focused on dates and times and information instead of that emotional baggage. So Tone Meter AI is our newest feature, and we've had Tone Meter for some time. It's always been our emotional spell check, and now we actually have a generative AI feature that will kind of be giving suggestions for that language. We've got our messaging feature, which is really a nice sweet spot between email and text message. Our calendar, which I said kind of our flagship feature, preloaded with a bunch of different splits to help make co-parenting easier, make sure everyone knows where their responsibilities lie. Oops, excuse me, I'm going too fast here. Our expenses, which is a great way for parents to, at minimum, just track and have a log of their expenses, or at most, actually pay each other through our program using OFW Pay. We've also got our calls feature, which launched last year. This can be recorded or not recorded, and there are audio video calls that take place between the two apps. We don't need to exchange phone numbers for that. Our info bank is a really excellent feature that gets underutilized. It's a great way to store essential parent and kid info, insurance cards, eye color, t-shirt size for back to school shopping, that sort of thing. Our journal has two tools, both moments and check-ins. Those are great, and I'll tell you more about those. Again, underappreciated features in my opinion. And then our professional access, which hopefully many of you already use, where you can get a free pro account to basically get connected to your clients, whether you're an attorney, guardian ad litem, mediator, parenting coordinator, et cetera, and you can kind of supervise and have oversight over their communication. Some professionals like to be very hands-on in checking their client accounts, often daily, and some are a little more hands-off, and just having access so they can go in and run a report every so often is adequate. So a lot of user-specific customization and whatever you might want to have in that space. So looking first at our calls feature, we really wanted this to look familiar. So it's a lot like a FaceTime or a Facebook Messenger call. Kind of the way we designed this is so it's short and sweet. It doesn't have a background filter or any screen effects. We really wanted to protect the integrity of the video quality. This gets used a lot for parent to parent communication, but also parent to child. So virtual visitation, this is a great solution. Even our recorded calls can be a really great option for a virtual supervised visitation. We care a lot about protecting our client privacy. So both parents have the ability to actually toggle on and off their audio and video consents in OFW for calls. So this is a great boundary setting tool so that parents can actually choose when they need to not be available. So if maybe, a DV survivor parent is, getting spammed with calls by a more aggressive parent, they can turn these consents off to make sure that they are not receiving calls when they don't want to. It's pretty clear visually on here when the consents are toggled on. Here we can see the green yeses showing that both parents are consenting. If a parent wasn't consenting, it would be a red no. So it's pretty like visually punchy to know which parents are granted consent that calls can take place. Again, there's no need for any exchange of personal info or a cell phone number in order for calls to take place. It's just app to app through these two programs over a data stream. So Wi-Fi, mobile data, that sort of thing. We also track all of the consents if they are on or off and how often parents turn them on and off during a time period on the reporting feature. And I'll show you an example of that here in a couple slides. So for our calls feature, we also track all of the essential activities that take place. So as you can guess, like if you might look at a call on your phone, you have the date and time that the call was received and the participants. But we also track each activity. So each person who initiates or ends the call, if someone mutes or unmutes, turns their camera on and off, we track all of those different actions and activities taken during a call. That way, it's really nice for you to know like a full story and you get a greater detail of documentation. That way, if Taylor initiates the call and then Sam turns camera off right away and is camera off for the entire duration of the call, that can give you a little bit of softer information kind of about what's going on. So let me move on to my next slide here to talk a little bit more about the recording feature. So our call recordings are optional. They're typically on the max tier of our program, which is one of the more expensive tiers. That's kind of our top end. It includes the call recording. So for folks who are paying for OFW, that is a more expensive feature, but we are able to grant this for free to any clients who are receiving a fee waiver. And I'll talk more about our fee waiver at the end, but basically that's our process so that any clients who are facing a financial barrier, struggling with funds, can have an account for free. And we are really liberal and generous with our fee waivers because we really want folks to have access to our program if they need it. So we're really happy to give those away. And we can add call recording if it's ordered or really needed for that case. The way it works, it's kind of like two genres of calling. I think of it as regular calls and also recorded calls. Here in Zoom, we could like turn the recording off and then turn it back on. But in the calls, you really have to initiate a recorded call or initiate a standard call. That way, a parent can't try to turn it on in the middle of the call and kind of, do a little switcheroo moment on their co-parent. So basically, the initiating parent has to consent to the recorded call, place that recorded call, and then the recipient gets this little pop-up message here that notes that if they continue on the call, they consent to being recorded and they consent to have their kids recorded if they're joining them as well. If they click leave the call, it just doesn't happen and the call ends right there. If someone needed to then have a non-recorded call, they would have to reinitiate a non-recorded call from there. Here's another example of that activity history, including, camera off, camera on, along with the icons to download the recording and the transcript. So every time a recorded call takes place, the recording becomes available and the transcript is automatically generated. Both of those, the recording and the transcript, are available for 90 days after the call takes place. It's really the only thing that we have that has that expiration. We always keep all messages. We're not deleting things in OFW ever, but these files can get really large. So when parents have 5, 10, 15, 5 to 10 minute calls, they start to get really big and they start to take up their storage space and kind of slow down app functionality. If you're like me and your app runs slow and you start to get mad, not ideal when we were trying to reduce conflict. So we have that kind of built-in expiration. So parents can always download them anytime during that 90 days and save them to their Google Drive, hard drive, anything like that. This little yellow triangle down here that says 45 days left, this is also the visual cue. It's kind of like a day ticker to show how many days are left to download those prompts. A lot of the screenshots I'm going to show you, including this one, is through the client view. So this is what a professional account can see looking at their client. And then professionals also have access to those recording and transcripts. They can download them as well as all the reports. So for calls, I'll note that the call report has basically the generated date here at the top. So whenever that report is pulled, we have the date it was pulled at the top, all the participant information, and then basically this report is chronological between this time period. So you have some customizations, whether that's the parent pulling the report or the professional, where you can adjust the time period of calls that you want to pull from. So this particular report contains 38 calls, including the consent history. So going back to earlier when I mentioned that parents can toggle their consents on and off. That's all tracked right here. So that way we're kind of wanting to make sure that parents don't have an opportunity to use a little bit of, misused ignorance to be like, oh, I didn't know, like I couldn't receive a call. But, it's really obvious to them if their consents are off and on, and you as a professional have access to that when you're reporting as well. The calls themselves have a full log of all that activity that takes place, the status and duration, icons if they're recorded or not, start and end time, participants, etc., for all 38 of those calls. The transcript, like I mentioned, automatically is generated whenever a call is recorded. It's a lot like a Zoom transcript. It kind of breaks it down line by line, speaker by speaker as a conversation. So they're really accurate transcription software. I do always note that, if maybe kiddos join the call, sometimes and they mumble a little bit or don't speak super clear, the transcription software might have some hiccups. So I would always pair this with the recordings. That way you have, a single source of truth. You have like the most accurate version of events. I'm going to keep moving, but please feel free to ask questions or put things in the chat. So for messages, again, this is through the client view. So I'm showing you kind of the high level messages view through the professional account. This is exactly what parents see also. So we really want to encourage, our parents to use our organizational features. One of the benefits of using OFW over like just text message is that, when you're getting screenshots of all these different text messages that are kind of all mixed together, it can be really hard to just sort through the info and organize it. So I always try to encourage parents to actually like create folders and, start a new thread for a different topic. So that way they can have things like, parenting agreement or maybe scheduling for basketball practice on different threads and it's not all just mixed together. That's why we have a little bit more of that kind of email sort of organization built in, but we want the convenience of whipping out your phone and sending a text message. The messages, this is looking at in the mobile view, this is what parents would get to see. Messages include the first view date, sent and received timestamps. So all that essential info, but really importantly, the date that the parent first sees the message. So Sam sent this message on May 11th, and Taylor saw it a couple hours after the message was sent. You as a professional, if you log in with your pro account, there's no way for you to like accidentally trigger the first viewed. Only the parent can actually mark their message as viewed. People can send attachments, photos, documents, PDFs, etc. And there's no way to edit or delete these messages either. I say that because I'm not sure if you all have encountered this. It's really easy to create fake and false text messages. You can Google a fake text generator and come up with like just a website where you can basically manipulate the content of the messages, the carrier, the battery life, the service. Like you can customize an entire screenshot that could be fully false. So that's kind of a scary reality that it's really easy to come up with those. So that's one of the reasons I like to mention that there's just no way to edit messages in OFW. So they really are secured and set in stone after they've been sent. And you're just eliminating the possibility of any, kind of bad faith efforts to manipulate. Tone Meter AI is our newest feature. So we've had Tone Meter for quite some time, and it's always been a static algorithm that is kind of offering these negative flags for language that's inflammatory, upsetting, etc. But we really wanted to build something in-house that is a secure closed source AI program, because we know that folks are using things like ChatGPT to copy and paste their messages into, get some coaching and feedback. That's fine, but that's an open source platform. I'm sure you're all aware of, like the scary things that it's like creating false case law. So we really wanted something secure and in-house. So we built Tone Meter AI in-house. It's closed source to our program. So it's not open, but it is a learning algorithm. So it will improve and get better at offering suggestions to parents. So it is not only including these negative flags, but then it's going to offer a suggestion as well, right? So it's saying that things like, I don't want to hear your excuses, I'm sick of it, those things are getting flagged as negative, but it is also offering this new suggestion that's kind of rephrased with this tone of like neutrality and observation. I've noticed Ethan's been picked up a few times recently. It's important for his routine. Please make sure to be on time. It's really imbuing the tone with a much more neutral observational tone that is focused on child success and not, the parent's disappointment and I don't want to hear excuses, that sort of thing. When we did our beta testing for this feature, we found that about 90% of our users did find the suggestions helpful. And I mention that because, AI is such a hot topic right now. We didn't create this because we just wanted to hop on the bandwagon and have a new AI feature. So many of like, mediators and PCs, we know that they're spending a lot of time helping coach parents on how to speak to one another in a more cordial way. So we really wanted Tone Meter AI to be like a buddy assistant in that work to make it more effective, and just have another speed bump to slow parents down from sending off those hot messages. That way they can have another prompt that's saying, slow down, think about saying it like this instead of like that. So that's Tone Meter AI. Let's see here. Great question. When you say non-standard English, do you mean like a non-English language or more like slang or things that are just like not technically like within like, typical grammar for the English language? Okay, that's a great question. We have several different, I think, learning language modules built into Tone Meter. I can do some digging with our team and find out a greater, like, more info about that. Because in terms of non-English for like, different language, we can use any keyboard in our feature. So like a parent could import a Somali or Spanish language keyboard and use that. But we don't have any built-in translation services. We've always kind of allowed a specific, firm or court to make that assertion, since we really want to make sure that the, sanctity and accuracy of the language is kept. So I'll do some digging and get you some information about that, in terms of like how it copes with it. The use cases that I've seen is that it does fine with it. It is really kind of like, noting specific turns of phrases, combinations of words that are negative and kind of passive aggressive, etc. But I'll get some more information for you. And then your question about the record of tone meter responses, we're working on that. We're seeing since we launched tone meter AI, a huge uptick in how often this feature is specifically included in the order, which is great, but we really need to have some reporting functions to back that up. So the big questions that I get a lot are basically, is there a way for a professional to see how often the parent is triggering tone meter? And then is there a way for them to see how often the parent is accepting the suggestion? So those are kind of an example of the reporting features that our development team is working on right now. I'm always collecting feedback about that to share with them. So if there's another type of feature you'd like to see in addition to that, feel free to just drop it in the chat and I'll make note of it too. Question if there's support available in Spanish. Yeah, we do just have our app in English. Like I said, the keyboard could be changed so the parent can, message in a different language. But right now we do just have English. We get a lot of questions about that, so we're looking into it. But it's really important for us to have a really reputable translation system that, will actually like be accurate. So everything is like still appropriate for court. So we're still investigating that. Moving on from tone meter, and great questions, please keep dropping them in. I won't make you read all of these, but I really like to highlight Dr. Furr's note that tone meter AI is a great way for parents to learn how to dial down the emotional temperature in the room. I'm a really visual person, so I'm always thinking about that thermometer and the idea of like bringing the temperature down, bringing down the conflict in a situation. So another example of reports, we have reports for pretty much all of our features. This is a message report, and there are a couple different ways to generate message reports as well. So if you click on the inbox, you can generate an inbox report, or if you click all messages, you can generate an all messages report. When you're doing that, whether it's a parent or professional account, you can also toggle on a switch to include all replies. So there's a couple of customizations there. If when you include all replies, it basically adds all the replies within one of these, one of 50. So it can get really long, basically. If you want a several hundred page report, including all replies can be a good option. I see a lot of professionals who ideally will do an all messages report without replies, and that often serves their purposes. But there's just know that as a professional, if you're pulling these reports, there's a lot of customizations depending on what's needed. The report itself will include all of that essential info for each message, first view date, participants, sent timestamp, and then the content of the message. The report won't include attachments like photos because it'll ruin the formatting. All of those attachments do not get deleted. They're still available in the messages to be downloaded, printed as needed. We'll also sort all attachments into the My Files section, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit too. So the calendar feature, again, one of our most well-known flagship features. Visually, we really wanted this to be punchy and have like a really great example of like where parent responsibility lies just based on the color code. So over here on the left, you can see that, we have our last viewed stamps for Taylor and Sam, and you can see their color code associations. So Taylor last looked at the calendar on August 11th at 8:30. Sam last looked August 11th at 1:49. So you can see that Sam's got this purple color, Taylor's got this orange color, and everything's broken down there. And we include the events as they kind of land on each of these days as well. So moving on from that, we do have a bunch of rotations like pre-built into our system. 223, 2255. Most of the common rotations are included, but we can also build things from the ground up for any parents who maybe they're a third shift worker or first responder, and these templates just don't work for them. They can always go ahead and build something custom from the ground up. It'll basically, in the custom building feature, allow them to set up the cadence, how, what they want it to repeat, which days, and they can build it out and then just apply it to the calendar and it'll filter out for the future. Folks don't have to, go in again and again to keep updating it. Looking at a day of the week. So here we're looking at September 4. You can see how the color code continues to like break down. So Taylor's got 9 o'clock responsibility, Sam at 2:30 with the transition time broken out specifically. So really, again, really wanted to make sure that parents have an exact sense of where their responsibilities lie. So there's minimal confusion. Holiday feature is really great. So holidays can be customized. Folks can add maybe religious holidays that aren't included in here, but also the holidays will override the parenting schedule. So if it's maybe a year when, Christmas is going to land on a Thursday, and Thursday is normally mom's, day, but dad's going to have the kids for that Christmas, they can customize how they want the holidays to look for years ahead of time and then apply them in the calendar. So it'll override. That way there's like fewer opportunities for confusion around, holidays with the schedule. The events work a lot like any other kind of calendar system you might have experience with the addition of like the OFW signatures, so the drop off and pickup parent responsibilities with their color code and the history of when these events were created. It's not possible to edit any calendar event that's already taken place. So I can go on my phone and change the date and time from an event from 2 years ago, but we don't allow that in OFW. Everything is set in stone. If a parent ever needs to add like a supplemental note, they can use the journal feature to maybe add a text note that they want to apply to something from July of last year, and they can always do that, but they can't edit the actual event. That's already set in stone. Like I said before, we really want to encourage interactions between parents that are like transactional and focused on dates and times and information to reduce the opportunity for conflict to bubble up. So the schedule change request is a perfect feature for that, right? We don't want parents to go into a message and then go back and forth about, like, oh, I need to make a work schedule change. And then the other parent's like, you never did that for me. Like it can just be a situation. So the schedule change request feature is meant to be a transactional way for folks to accomplish these needs. So it could be a one-way change or a two-way exchange. That way parents can actually swap or trade their parenting time. The feature used to be called trade swap, and it was a little bit confusing. So that's why we renamed it. We've had it for a long time, but we renamed it somewhat recently. So parents have the ability to approve these suggestions, decline them, and propose a new option, or just decline it outright. I really like to note that there is this kind of deadline for response, and it will outline with the language that Sam is requesting that he take responsibility in exchange for Taylor's taking responsibility at these given dates and times. So it's like, I think the way we phrase it really helps make sure there's less confusion. And then there's always a text reason so that is included for why the request is being created. Tone Meter AI will populate whenever parents can free text enter here too. So if they're typing in this explanation, they'll have access to Tone Meter AI suggestions as well. And then after the suggestion is approved by both parties, it'll just go ahead and filter right into the calendar and be set up automatically. We do have a report for this feature as well. So kind of each of these gray lines breaks down each of these schedule change requests. So you can see that these are closed, right? So if they could still be open, maybe at the time of generating a report, if they're, the deadline hasn't been met yet. So it'll note if it's open or closed. It'll have the breakdown of which parent is requesting the responsibility change, and if the request itself was refused or accepted or approved, and then the actual text explanation that accompanied each of those requests as well. The journal, like I mentioned before, I think is one of my actual favorite features that has two really underutilized tools, moments and check-ins. So let me start with moments. So this example here, Taylor is just posting a couple photos of Nina at her friend's birthday party and sharing this with Sam. It's a really great feature that can help parents like build back a bit of goodwill and really share joy with one another. So here, like Taylor's able to, kind of let her co-parent in on, a joyful moment for their kiddo when Sam wouldn't have otherwise had, access to that. I think in the kind of work of bringing down conflict, this is another great way to try to help parents like have an opportunity to hold on to the valuable things and really keep their kiddos' success front of mind. These moments, this is the same thing that you could post a journal moment if I needed to make a supplemental note to a calendar event from the past, because you can assign them to any date in the calendar and they can also be tagged to a location. So maybe, Taylor's going through her phone, finds a really nice picture she wants to share from a year ago. She could still share that as a moment or just share a note in the calendar about it. The check-in feature is a GPS check-in, which is 500 feet accurate to the user's exact location. So this is really meant to be a solution for all those times like you have to send a parent to go buy a cup of coffee. So with the receipt, they can prove that they were present at a location at a certain time. If I'm a parent, I can pull up my phone, open OFW and go to the journal and create a check-in. Like basically prompt me to enable my location sharing. So if the parent has an iPhone or Google device or Android device, whatever it may be, they'll have to share their location so they can use the feature. And then basically it'll open up a mapping feature that's powered by Google Maps where they can set their actual location. It won't allow them to move it far away from where they are. It is very accurate to where they actually are. And then they can create that check-in with a note. Here, Sam has created a note that he just arrived for scheduled exchange with his location tagged. None of our other features use location sharing for any reason, so parents don't have to leave it on. There's no way for parents to view each other's live location. It's not like, when you're sharing location in other apps where you can see it live. It's just I create a check-in, it shows my location for that exact time at that exact place, and there's no other like live location sharing. And folks can always just turn off their location sharing if they prefer as well. Check-ins can also be created privately. Moments can be created privately as well. So here's an example of Sam creating a private check-in, noting that Taylor was 20 minutes late for pickup and forgot Nina's soccer shoes at home. So Sam could create this privately where only he could see it. Sam could share it with his practitioner, the professional account, or share it with the co-parent. There's a lot of customization there, but anything private really is private just for that parent. So this can be a nice way of tracking, if their co-parent has a chronic, tardiness issue or forgetfulness, that sort of thing. The journal report is really comprehensive. You'll notice that it includes definitions for both those moments and check-ins, and then we'll kind of break out which of these entries is a moment or a check-in on the far right side. So the journal is one single report that includes both the moments and check-in entries. Again, all of that information included, date and timestamps, participants. You can see who they were shared with and the first viewed dates included, and then all of the text entry that was accompanied that. In a second, I'm going to tell you about the My Files. Again, photos shared through messages or in that journal section will all filter in the same place. I really love the info bank actually, because this is a really, really, really helpful feature. Even unified or intact families don't have a great way of sharing all this information. Social security number, blood type, pant size. This is great for back to school shopping season, or if it's time for medical appointments. I mean, how many times have you seen, conflict kind of drum up because parents are trying to track down insurance information or when the last, flu vaccine was administered, that sort of thing. So this is a really great tool where parents, if they do the work to kind of upload a lot of this information, it'll really make life a lot easier because they have a single place to access all of it. There's a gray tab here for each of the family members. So we've got the parents and the kids. So each family member can have all their information entered and customized right in here in the info bank. This My Files section is the section I mentioned before where all of the attachments and images that get shared will all filter right into this section as well. So photos from the messages feature, from the journal feature, everything gets sorted in here. And professional accounts can also share documents through that feature as well. So another great option for professionals if you need to share maybe an updated agreement, something like that, it could be posted in the My Files section. Expenses is another one of our features that basically allows parents to keep track of all their, expenses for what they're paying for the kiddos, and they can also pay each other if they choose to do that as well. So let's look at this basketball 2023 expense here at the top. So this is from October 4th. We can see that these two initials, these are for Nina and Charlie, our kiddos in this situation. So this basketball expense was for both kiddos, purchased on 9/28. In the category for the details, it's the sports category, which is a 50-50 split. So that $350 total is getting broken down 50-50. So Taylor's paying 175. Again, this is through the client view. So this is what the professional can see through a pro account. And you can see up here the totals of what Taylor owes, what Sam owes. And then on this left-hand side, you can see the different ways of viewing the payment activity or OFW payments. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a couple slides. So the log includes a clear overview of all the expenses. So folks can really have a lot of customization with how they actually want to operate this. Some folks will do, just keep this as an expense log and then use a third-party program like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, or something like that to pay each other. We have a lot of filtering in here because, as you can guess, it's pretty doesn't take a long time for a lot of these expenses to pile up. So that way, if parents want to see like, oh, I need to look for all the piano lessons to make sure we didn't miss one, they could, search and filter for just the piano expenses and pull all those up specifically. The expense categories are a way that parents can actually customize the different categories that they want to kind of connect their expenses to. So professional accounts can also create expense categories, though professionals can't create individual expenses in the log, but you can help with categories. So things like, here we're creating a school category that has a description for tuition, supplies, lunch account, field trips, and it's a 70-30 split. So these are all customizable depending on, maybe what's included in the agreement. These can be totally built out custom for each family member. Creating the expenses from there is really easy. You can basically start a new expense, associate who the owing parent is, set up the category, and then we put in the total of 100, it'll automatically apply that 70-30 split. So the money gets broken down. You can attach a receipt really easily with your phone. So if a parent wants to just snap a picture of the receipt, they can upload it really easily as they create the expense and have it included right there as well. At that point, it's in the expense log, and then parents can choose how they want to actually pay one another. If they do use like maybe paper check or a third party platform, they can still mark it as paid in the log. But I do think that if folks are going to use the expense log, it really pays off to also use OFW Pay. This feature is included on all of our tiers from Essentials up. So the Essentials is our most common tier of the program. That's also the type that we give away for free for our free accounts for the fee waiver. And that tier includes 12 payments for the year. So each parent can do like a monthly payment and batch all their expenses together. I think this is like a more successful way to do that, because we can then, when we have that payment feature being used in-house, we can also track the movement of money, and it just like reduces the variables of different things floating around when it comes to tracking expenses, since money is a big stressful topic for people. We use Dwolla Plaid for this. So that is a really secure bank transfer system. So this isn't like a credit or debit cards setup. It is a true bank transfer integration. So that's if you were ever going to connect your Chase account to pay off a Discover card, it would be the same Plaid system that like connects those bank accounts. The really nice thing about creating these expenses is that the history, like I said, includes the movement of all the money. So you can see the amounts paid, the participants, child, receipt, information if it's private or a recurring entry, and then the history that this expense was created by Taylor, approved by Sam, the funds are withdrawn from this 3030 account on 7/19, and then deposited into the 4455 account on 7/21. So it just really keeps everything in this kind of like one-stop shop and makes life a lot easier. It is also possible to schedule payments ahead of time or schedule recurring payments that might be weekly, monthly, yearly, or what have you. Like if parents want to do more frequent payments using OFW Pay, they will probably need to upgrade to get past that just 12 payments for the year. But the vast majority of our parents just batch their expenses and then do one payment per month to stay nice and organized. The expense report, we actually have a few different reports available, transactional, categorical, totals, a few different options depending on the need. This particular report is kind of all categories. So you can see child support, medical, school, kind of broken down with the creators, and then kind of how much is owed there. So we have a really kind of good amount of different transactional reports available for the expenses. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to Pro Access. So many of you might have experience with this already. So looking at this from kind of a high level, when you first log in, you get to kind of get to your landing page, and then you have your cases and messages. Once you click on cases, and then when you view the families, that's where you get to see all these different families we're connected to. So for situations like the, Sam and Taylor for the Roger Smith family, you'll note that this professional account that if I'm looking at here through mine, I've got access to both clients. So typically a professional like a GAL or maybe like a caseworker, PC, mediator, these are all folks that are going to be working with both clients, but often, an attorney just representing one will probably just be looking at one client as opposed to both. So they have access to both clients. You can see their subscription account. So if you ever have a client who is using a fee waiver and their subscription is nearing its end, feel free to email me and I'm happy to renew their fee waiver account so we can keep getting them access to the program. The three dots here, when you click, that basically allows you to either go into the client view or disconnect from the family when it's time for you to be done with them or if you're finished serving the case. There's kind of a couple different ways to get connected to a parent account. A professional can click add family and then start get basically invite a parent to set up OFW for the first time. We do have a 30-day money back guarantee. So when folks kind of go through the setup process, they can get refunded in 30 days if they're not happy with how the program works. We do have bulk pricing available as well. A lot of firms like to take advantage of that. And that basically works here where you see subscription codes. So maybe a firm wants to buy 20 OFW subscriptions for a 20% discount. And then they get all the subscription codes listed right here. And then those professionals will often kind of roll the cost of OFW into their professional fees. So the parent actually receives a discounted price by the end of it. And the firm gets the advantage of kind of owning the onboarding process more easily because they don't have to like invite the family and then the family has to go through the payment process to get set up. They can just give them a subscription code through their pro account and then the family can just get onboarded right there. So some firms and attorneys really like that process. We have some examples of like JFS and JFS and agencies or other agencies that like to use the bulk accounts for case management, like Stark County, Ohio. Their Job and Family Services uses our bulk accounts for their adoption cases, where like the adopting parent and the biological parent are like the parents. And that way they have a secure platform where they can message with like caseworker supervision. So we've got some different kind of use cases there as well. And we are revamping our affiliate program for any folks that do like to use the bulk pricing option. Connecting with a family is pretty easy, whether you are linking to an existing family who already has OFW, or if you're inviting a new parent, you basically just need at least their name and email to send them an invite and get them situated. And then from there, they kind of get a welcome email and they have to go through the process to finalize their account and figure out their payment information. You also have the option to toggle on the request for the co-parents account. Again, really useful for GALs, mediators, PCs, etc. From there, the client view mode is definitely where maybe many of you have the most experience. That's where you can see every single feature from the client view. So I kind of visualize it like I'm putting on the eyes or the goggles of the client. And then you can see their messages, calendar, journal, info bank, expenses, etc. Professionals can also pull a sign-in history. So not only can you see everything your client is doing, maybe you have a client that just never seems to be checking their account, you can actually pull a report that lists out all of the different times that the client is signing in. So Taylor can pull her own report and see her IP address and her sign-in times. Taylor's professional can pull the same report, but Taylor's co-parent, so if it's Sam, Sam can never see her IP address. They can pull each other's sign-in history reports and see the times, but the IP address won't be included for co-parents. That way that we consider the IP address to be like a secure piece of protected information. So the address is not getting shared between co-parents, just for your awareness about that. We do have affidavits available should they be requested. We generally find that these are not super necessary. The reports are usually more than enough. But if these are necessary, we can pull them. We basically pull reports directly from our servers at the home office in Minneapolis, and then sign, stamp, notarize these page by page and send them out directly from the home office. I talk a lot about our security. I get lots of questions about other apps like App Close, maybe talking parents, kind of other co-parenting apps that are in the space and kind of what the differences are, et cetera. Both of those apps are free to get started. And just consider this for your awareness, like whether they are these co-parenting apps or if it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, really any free app is never truly free because like they got to keep the lights and the servers on. So from somewhere along the way, the money is coming into play, and usually that's tracking user data and selling to advertisers. So just be aware about that, and that's kind of one of the things to think about with free apps like AppClose and Talking Parents. And that's one of the reasons, since we are a paid program, I talk about kind of what that allows us to do when it comes to stewarding parent information and protecting them from, selling to advertisers. So we keep our data encrypted in transit and at rest, which basically means that whether the parent is using their OFW account and the data is moving, or if it's, their phone is sitting idly in their purse or pocket, and the data is resting, the data is encrypted regardless. So not all apps encrypt data that's at rest. So that's one of the reasons that I like to talk about that, so folks know kind of our commitment to that. We do have TLS certificates, web app firewalls, intrusion monitoring, and DDoS mitigation. We have enterprise grade private cloud, and we are GDPR compliant as well. I don't believe that GDPR compliance is mandatory in the United States yet, but since we have a presence in Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, we keep our GDPR compliance up since it's more of a global standard. It's basically another commitment that we will never sell user data. So to keep that aware as well. Some of the things to be aware of with AppClose, again, since I get so many questions about this, they have a couple of, I think, philosophical differences where, we don't want to ever delete information. If a parent stops using OFW or stops subscribing, deletes it from their phone, we are not deleting their accounts. We still can have their records available. That stuff is always stored. AppClose does let their users delete their accounts permanently and block each other from communication. So just for your awareness, that can lead to some conflict. I've spoken to GALs who have had really bad experiences and withdrawn from cases because like one parent deleted their AppClose account, the other parent deleted in retaliation, and then pretty quickly they're just kind of back to ground zero, but maybe had even more conflict because now they've dealt with all this frustration around the co-parenting app. Their professional access is a lot more restrictive. There's no desktop version. You can only use it on your phone. You have to re-request that access, like call them and request that access periodically. It's not just permanent like it is with OFW. So really a couple things to be aware of there. They do also charge for their call recording. So like I said, our call recording is on a higher paid tier. AppClose advertises themselves as having no hidden fees, but they do charge for that feature. So just be aware of that if that comes up in any of your work. And then I think other things to be aware of is that they just have fewer features and are kind of less robust overall. They just don't really have quite everything that we offer in our program. Talking Parents is another program that I don't see a lot of usage in Indiana. It's more popular in some other states. This is kind of a freemium program where it is free to get started, but they charge $144 for the mobile app. At least the vast majority of our Family Wizard users prefer to use the mobile app. So charging them extra for the mobile app is something that Talking Parents does. They also charge for notifications. Their regular calling is over $300 a year, and they charge $50 for a 24-hour access period to their reports. So all the reports I was showing you for our features are constantly available for parents and professionals. So we don't ever have any additional charges for notifications or reports or anything like that. The affidavits are really the only thing that might have an additional cost if they're really necessary. For our model order language, I'm happy to send this to anyone who'd like a digital copy. I can send you the Word document or PDF. But we see a lot of success when the exclusive communication is outlined, enrolling in the program by a specific deadline, naming the participants and the order access, and limiting messaging, kind of meaning that, again, messaging should ideally really only be used when it's the only feature that could solve the specific need. Because again, we want our other features to be transactional and serve a specific purpose. So, leaving messaging for when nothing else works is kind of ideal. A couple examples of times when OFW has been contested, and we've been court ordered in all 50 states at this point, so it's a little less common, but I like to share this just for everyone's awareness. This is from 2008, so a little older, but basically the response in Kentucky was, in light of the high degree of conflict present in this case, we agree with the guardian ad litem that the family court was within its authority and discretion to order the use of this software. The Family Wizard software assists the trial court in supervising its orders and reducing excessive litigation through the facilitation of effective communication between the parties. Another example from the state of Pennsylvania, when a father basically kind of objected or complained about being ordered to use OFW, the judge's response was that the father's objection to the tool is perplexing. The purpose of Family Wizard is to document and provide better communication between the parties. This tool protects each party against trivial or false contempt petitions by preserving evidence. It facilitates communication between parties in a non-hostile, non-confrontation, non-intrusive monitored format. Father's objection belies logic. The tool is objective and applies equally to each party. So really what we see is that if there's ever a parent who's really resistant to using OFW, and it's not because of cost, it's most likely because they don't want to be supervised, doing something inappropriate. Yes, answering the chat question, Amy, I do believe that I sent you the Word version of the model order language in those kind of like pre-read resources. So you all should have access to that. But again, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll make sure you all have my email address at the end if you ever need anything. I'm your go-to person. The Essentials plan, like I mentioned, is definitely our most popular plan. We bill annually, so we do have folks pay upfront for their year, but it breaks down to basically being, at least for Essentials, 12.50 a month. It's cheaper than Netflix and kind of like a couple Starbucks runs for the month. This is also this mid-tier plan that we give to all the folks who get a fee waiver. We do have a slightly cheaper choose your own plan. It does have a few more limitations, with all of the, like they can only receive audio and video calls. They have a little less storage. All of the tiers include tone meter. So tone meter AI is always included. And Max is the one that has the call recordings. Again, for fee waiver clients, they receive the Essentials plan, and we can apply call recording for them if it's ordered or really necessary. So the fee waiver application, we just updated so it's digital now. It used to be a paper application. If anyone still has paper applications, super happy to still accept them. You can always email me if you need any support getting a free account for a client, even if they don't technically qualify. We're very liberal with our fee waivers and are very happy to make sure that folks have access to our program. But the typical thresholds or kind of qualifiers are if a parent is found indigent of the court, if they are receiving legal aid assistance or pro bono reduced rate representation, if they are receiving public assistance like SNAP, or if they're like a DV survivor in shelter. All of those are immediate like approvals for a fee waiver. So they can basically go through this digital application. They can get approved in as fast as 3 minutes. And then from there, they're set up for the full year with a free account. Some folks will, use a free account every year. They use OFW. We see 3 to 5 years as being the kind of common bridge time for folks to stop using our program. Some folks will pay none of those years. Some maybe start on a fee waiver and then pay after that, after they've experienced the program and had time to kind of budget for it. Lots of possibilities there. Neil, answering your question, the fee waiver it's pretty fast. It takes about like as fast as 3 minutes, maybe up to 5. That being said, if you ever have a client who's kind of in a sweet spot, and if you're having any problems where they like don't have the right documentation to submit with this, you can always just email me and I'll push it through manually. In that situation, I might say give me a day to make sure we can process it, but we'll always help you get folks taken care of. We're happy to take you at your word, so you can always email me and let me know, and I'll get you situated for that. We do have a military discount, which is buy one, get one free. So any active duty, veteran, retired, all can have access to kind of a buy one, get one free for their OFW. This can mean that both parents get it like for half price if they share it, but it will go to the actual free account will usually go to the actual service member. We have a great customer support team that I love talking about. They are available 7 days a week in English and Spanish. I think someone mentioned that earlier. They are also trained in de-escalation. So, often the folks calling in will be like frustrated, both because they're maybe having tech problems and are just, going through a really tough life experience. So our folks are really great at helping them understand how to use the program, and just kind of offering them support as they're going through a tough experience. So they're available phone, email, and over live chat. We employ them directly. They're not like a third party that we, contract out. So I really love our customer support team. They're very wonderful. The last thing I'll tell you all about in my closing couple minutes is Keeper. So we were really, we see a tremendous amount of alcohol misuse overlapping with the high conflict situations where our family wizard gets used. We have a great relationship with a program like SoberLink, if you're familiar with that. We see them at conferences. They just weren't interested in any kind of collaboration, but we really wanted to partner with some entity in alcohol monitoring. So that's where we partnered with Keeper. Their parent organization Minder
I'm not
makes
sure I'm in the right
intox.
place. Doctor, is it
Do you have a
Austin?
question, Julie? Okay. So Keeper is, like I said, Intoxlock has been around for around 30 years or so, but Keeper is a brand new breathalyzer they just made really specifically for family law. I don't know how well you all can see. I'm going to pull up my video so y'all can see what you're working with, but this is the actual breathalyzer, and then this is my AirPods case. They're about the same size. The breathalyzer is a little bigger, but it's really pocket sized, and it has this kind of vape-like mouthpiece. I'll let you all decide if you like the vape comparison or not. But the reality is it's a lot more of a small, discrete device. If you've ever seen the SoberLink devices, they're kind of big and they have that plastic straw. So the Keeper devices really help folks preserve more dignity, and they're a lot cheaper. It's about half the price of SoberLink. So it's $149 to buy the device outright. And then the subscription cost, the way Keeper does it is that it's the same tier, the same plan, but the subscription price depends on how long folks commit. So if they commit for a year, folks can get a $79 a month sort of price. If they commit month to month, it's $129. So that includes unlimited everything. Whereas SoberLink, you can kind of customize your price based on the features you want. Keeper is just one shot, everything is included. It's just the length of the commitment that changes. It's pretty easy to set up. You basically order the device online. It takes a couple days to get there. I think I got mine in 2 days. From there, Bluetooth pair it to your phone. The client can then set up authorized contacts in the Keeper app. I will say that our Keeper app and OFW app are still separate. We are seeking a software integration with them and kind of on the pipeline for that, but we're just not there yet. So for now, it's two separate apps so folks can set up their authorized contacts in Keeper. Those contacts can have specific permissions to set up the testing schedule, receive live notifications about test results, or maybe even send a push notification that it's time for the parent to take a test. From there, you can configure the testing schedule if they want randomized or whatever that might look like. And then the testing process is basically doing a live blow into the breathalyzer while you take a selfie, a live selfie with the Keeper app. Couple things that are slightly different than SoberLink. Keeper intentionally chose to not use facial recognition software because they wanted to avoid situations where people could be blocked from testing because the software doesn't recognize them. That happens sometimes if you've ever had your phone not let you in. They also wanted to make sure that folks would never be in a situation where a family member with a similar likeness could fool the facial recognition software. Maybe a family member with a similar cheekbones and eyes. It is possible for that to get fooled. So they really want to use the authorized contacts as the accountability measure. So that way, if it's the attorney, GAL, family member, co-parent who are getting those live results and they are the kind of trusted contacts, they're able to be the best people to actually verify identity to make sure there's no misuse happening there. They also track each unique serial code for every breathalyzer. So parents can't like buy two and then try to, blow in a dummy device while a sober person blows in the live device off screen. So they're thinking ahead because they've been in the space for a long time. That's a bit about how it works there. And then all the documentation for the results, really easily shareable over email. Some folks even download them and then share them through OFW messages. That's also an option. Other thing I'll note is that it's really accurate, plus or minus 0.005. I'm happy to send anyone more resources from the Keeper website about accuracy for the device if anyone's curious. But I'll just share with you these kind of plans again. Month to month is the most expensive for $129 a month. And then if you do a 6-month or 12-month commitment, you get a better price there. And then all of the tiers include unlimited everything. They do also have a financial assistance program, really similar to our fee waiver. So that's kind of one of the other reasons we feel ideologically aligned with them because they're really putting forth the effort to make sure that folks have access to a more affordable program. They even have a program where they will pay SoberLink's cancellation fees for any parent who really wants to try out Keeper. Keeper will foot the bill and pay for SoberLink's cancellation fees. So they're making a couple efforts there to really show their determination to offer folks a more dignified, low cost option. So I've been yapping at y'all for just about an hour. Any last minute questions for me before we wrap here? Amy, feel free to hop in if you need anything else from me, or George, please as well. But that's the end of my content, and I'll be happy to share my contact information if anybody needs any follow-ups. But anything else I can do for y'all? Answer questions.
Thanks, Giuseppe. That was really informative. I thought that was super helpful.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're so welcome.
I agree. I appreciate you presenting. I think this gives, from my standpoint, the clients that we serve more options and certainly give us a little bit more sight into the types of features that our Family Wizard has. Very interested in this tone meter. I can't wait for robots start to communicate with robots about how to raise the kids. But
Truly, we
may,
really need the
may,
human element.
maybe the tone meter will help people understand that maybe this is how you can phrase things. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And then I may have Amy or myself follow up to see if there's any slides or any other literature, for example, on Keeper that you could forward us.
Please, anything you need, let me know. Big takeaways, if you need help getting a client a free account with a fee waiver, please reach out. I'm available to anybody who needs it. Happy to pop out to your area in Indiana and visit y'all sometime sooner than November, but otherwise I'll hope to see you then. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Really good to see you all. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else that's on have any other questions that you didn't ask earlier?